Morning, everyone. Let's call this meeting to order for Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. If you're able, please rise for O Canada. A declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we do have regrets tonight from Councillor Martin. The confirmation of minutes. Moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Ottens, that the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on February 27th, 2024 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda. Any comments? All in favor? It's carried. Moving on to item number 6, which is the item under the Planning Act. So we'll now go into a planning meeting. This is a public meeting under the Planning Act to hear comments from the public and agencies and to give consideration to an application ZBA 2024-06 for proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Subject lands are located at East Part Lot 12, Concession 1, PL 7531, Wellington Road 86. And the purpose and effect is to rezone the lands to allow a home industry. We'll now hear information from the clerk. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, sir. Staff can confirm property owners and agencies were provided with the required notice on February 28th. Proper postings completed on February 29th. No concerns were expressed by Wellington County Roads Department, Wellington County Planning Department, Wellesley Township, Source Water Protection, and the GRCA. Mapleton Building Department staff have included comments in the agenda package.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now we'll hear from Mapleton Planner, Linda Redmond.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a standard home industry application. The landowners are proposing to construct a building to basically house school supplies and material like that for the parochial schools in the area. So we felt that this fit in closely with the home industry provisions or the on-farm diversified provisions, and in particular because it was to accommodate the community in our area that relies on horse and buggy. So it's makes sense that it's located in the rural area where the need is. The property also has a small welding shop on the property currently that the owner utilizes. So we included that floor area space within the amending bylaw to ensure that, so they basically have they're proposing 2 home industries on the property. The other issue with this one is that they do want to combine the building space with a farm building too. So the new building will have 2 parts to it. It'll have the home industry provision section and then the agricultural use section. So they do need relief from that as well in the amending bylaw. We have no concerns with the proposal.
Thank you. Do the applicants or owners have any comments? Okay. Any comments from those in attendance, please indicate so and state your name and address for the record. We'll first hear from those in support of the zoning amendment. Anyone here wishing to speak in support? Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition? Any questions from members of council then? Seeing none, the public meeting is now concluded. Thank you for attending the public meeting. I do have a resolution here, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Reed, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information the planning report and draft bylaw regarding ZBA 2024-06. Weber A and N 7531 Wellington Road 86 East, Part Lot 12, Concession 1, Peel. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? That's carried. Next item up is delegations, item 7.1. We have the Drayton Youth Center for delegation today. Hey, remember just to hit the red button.
All right. Hi. Oh, that was for Brenda. Hi, I'm Corey. I was here before, and this is Brenda, a fellow board member. Thanks for inviting us back. We weren't familiar with all the processes and requests before, so thank you for your patience with that. Special shout out to Larry and Amy for walking us through some of that. So to clarify, we're requesting an exemption from the fee for only the floor hockey tournament. This would assist us greatly in our fundraising goals, of which the money goes directly back into the community through the youth programs. The exemption of this fee will go a long way towards reaching some of our goals, including volunteer training and events for youth. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them.
All right, open it up for questions and from council. Councillor Ottens?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I guess this might be a question for staff. What would the fee be for this tournament? Do we have an idea?
Amy?
Through you, Mayor Davidson, to Councillor Ottens. Yes, the fee would be around $1,092 plus HST for this full 6 weeks.
All right. Further questions? All right, let me just. Question to the delegation.
Yes, yeah, so through you, Mayor. Is it my understanding as well that there's other events that take place during the year in which you rent the arena for as well?
Yes, so there's a hockey tournament that's run in November. That is the youth center receives the funds for, and then the youth center pays for the ice rental for that hockey tournament in full.
That's the adult tournament, correct? Right, okay.
Correct.
I remember refereeing that a number of times.
Oh, we're looking for referees for our tournament too, so thank you
Oh,
for
yeah,
mentioning that
but
you
you
do
are.
that.
Dang it, I had to say something, didn't I? Further questions to the delegation or to staff about this delegation? Okay, let me read thank you very much for the delegation, ladies. We'll get into the resolution. The resolution here is item 7.1, moved by Councillor Reed, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information the delegation of Drayton Youth Center Board regarding fee exemption request for renting the PMD arena floor for the sole purpose of running a floor hockey tournament. That's a resolution on the floor. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Tamlin.
Yeah, if possible, I'd like to add an addition to that motion, please.
Okay,
That considering the value of what that the Drayton Youth Centre brings to the community, and I know how much these events bring everyone together and friendships are made and how much volunteer time is in there. The fact we're in a position to maybe help that, I would like to support that. And I'd like to add then that if we could make an exemption just for the ball hockey tournament itself. I know we're under discussion, looking at policy and balancing revenues and income and for taxpayers as well at the moment, and how to support the community as well. So I know those discussions are going on. But in this case, I would like to put that forward.
okay, so the clerk is
Thank
just
you.
writing down an amendment to the motion. Okay, so Mr. Clerk, can you read that amendment to the motion, please?
Through you, sir. The amendment is that we make an exemption for the floor hockey tournament only.
So we have a motion to amend put out by Councillor Tamlin. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Seconder for the motion? The motion does not go on the floor. Thank you. Go back to the original motion to receive for information. Any further discussion? All in favor, receive for information? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Moving on to the next item is item 7.2. I believe we have Hempson Consulting once again. Stefan, are you up and running? There he is.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I turn the floor over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. And I don't know, Mr. Wheeler, whether you wanted me to share my screen or whether you were going to do that from your end. I'm happy to if you need to.
Share the screen and
So that would be great.
So you'd like me to share?
Yes, we would. Thank you.
Sure.
thank you. We can see it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, we're here tonight to talk about the implications for your development charges of not securing a federal GICB grant to help pay for an expansion and upgrade to the Drayton Community Hall. And you'll recall that we presented draft development charge rates to you last month that assumed that you would receive that grant, which was in the amount of about $12 million. So just wanted to recap exactly how we thought about the recreation charge last month. You can see that this this table just summarized all of the costs that were considered in the development charge analysis, and the parks and recreation costs are the second row here of figures. We had about just over $13 million worth of capital projects that were being considered as part of the development charge. And the vast majority of that was related to the Drayton Community Hall work. We'd identified this grant here, just under $12 million, which was going to fund about 93% of this cost. And of the remaining 7% of the cost, roughly 3/4 of that was considered to benefit your existing community, about $800,000. And that was excluded from the development charge calculation. And what was brought into the development charge calculation were these costs here, $300,000 of which could be funded from your current development charge reserve funds, and then $230,000, which was brought into the new development charge for recreation. And this was the charge that the total residential development charge that was calculated and presented to you. So it's about $25,000 for a single detached unit, with lower charges for smaller unit types. About 90% of the total charge was for your engineered services of water, wastewater, and roads, and just under 2% was related to parks and recreation. And then we also presented a non-residential development charge calculation for you that was $71.50 per square meter for new non-residential floor space. Again, the vast majority of this charge related to your water and wastewater and roads. And you'll note here that there was no non-residential charge for the recreation service. So the entire cost of the Drayton expansion was being borne by the residential development charge. And so this is that same table with the grant now removed. So and also making no change to the cost of the Drayton Community Hall expansion. So we still have in the Parks and Recreation just over $13 million in costs. We now no longer have that $12 million grant funding. What that means is the share of the cost that is going to benefit existing residents rises to about $10 million. And that, I repeat, is ineligible for development charge funding. So that must be paid for by non-development charge sources, which almost certainly means your property taxes. And we now can justify bringing a larger share into the development charge calculation. 300,000 can still be funded from your existing reserve funds, and we can now bring just under $3 million into the development charge calculation. And so this is the new development charge for residential development based on the new calculation. So the charge for a single detached unit has gone from about $24,500 to $29,500, about a $5,000 increase in the single detached charge. And you can see that whereas before Parks and Recreation was about 2% of the charge, it's now about 18% of the charge. So the additional 5,000 is all related to the Parks and Rec component. I should say that 18% of a total development charge is not at all unusual for municipalities. So for most municipalities that are building new facilities, you know, they usually need fairly hefty development charges to pay for it. And then there's no change to the non-residential charge because, again, this is premised on the idea that it's the residential sector that drives the need for recreation services. So just to conclude then, you know, the DC rate impacts of removing the recreation grant funding mean that your single detached unit residential development charge goes from $24,700 to $29,800, an increase of about $5,000 or 20%. And there's no change to the non-residential DC. There's a significant increase in the tax-funded component of the project. So previously, we assumed that about $800,000 of the project would need to be funded from the property tax, and that's now risen to $10 million. And I must apologize, but if you could just ignore this second bullet point, because we assumed at one point that some of the growth-related cost would be ineligible for DC funding and a post-period benefit. That's not actually the case. So I apologize, but please just ignore the second bullet. So just to conclude then, of course, this is all premised on the idea that the project remains the same scope and the same costs, and the financial impacts both to the development charge rates and to the tax-funded portion of the project would, of course, change if the project's costs changed. So I wanted to leave you with sort of three options for you to consider. One would be for council to say, we intend to proceed with the Drayton Community Hall project as it currently is, and the new development charge rate reflects the charges that are required to pay for the growth-related share, and therefore we should impose that development charge and proceed. The second option would be to say we intend to proceed with the Drayton Community Hall project as it's currently conceived, but the development charge is too high, and so we will implement a lower charge and have the taxpayer pick up the shortfall. And the third option would be to say that we do not intend to proceed with the Drayton Community Hall project in the same way as it was before, and we should therefore change the scope of the project and the cost and adjust the development charge accordingly. I have some sort of supplementary information at the end of my presentation, should your questions require it, but otherwise, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. That's clear, as clear can be. So we're looking at the different numbers, and we appreciate you putting that out for us to have a good look at this, since we did not get that funding from the federal government for the second time. I will say to the council that the discussions with the federal government are not over. We're going to continue with that and work to see that they will actually accept the shovel ready that we have been proposing to them. I know that Manny has been in touch with SEMA, and we've been working out a resolution to take to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to put that on the floor for all of Canada, because this is not specific just to Mapleton. It is something that all small communities would greatly impact from being able to use this, what we're proposing compared to what the federal government is allowing. So it's not dead for us. So there is still an opportunity for funding in the future. However, right now we're not having any funding. And this is the second kick of the can. And if I remember correctly, are we 3 years into this now? 4, 3.5? Yeah. And previous council and this council have seen what we're looking for doing to the arena. It's a great project. It's a great expansion of the project. It'll help out the seniors. It'll help out the young children of the community. It'll help out anybody that wants to use it as a facility other than the recreational hall. It's going to be more of a multi-court facility with a walking track and seniors space in the back and more storage. It was actually a great project. And of course, we're making it as green as possible when we do it as well, which falls in line with, what we're trying to do for sustainability in the future. So council has to discuss what we want to do. Do we want to add on this extra in order to move ahead with this in the future and gathering the dollars through development charges? And of course, there's still that extra $10 million that would have to come through another source, whether it be through the taxpayers, through donations, through federal government, provincial government, something in the future. But using development charges to offset those costs, or do we want to do nothing and just say, okay, the project's done, we'll just keep doing what we've been doing with the $24,730. I think there's a third option, but I can't remember the third option. One was scrap the project. The other one was, the third option was maybe look at this and cut the development charges down. If you think it's development charges are too high, we can always cut them down. Still have the project on board, because in order to do development charges, you need to have a project, and this is a great project to have. But if you think that's too high for development charges, it's $5,000 extra, then we could cut that down to $2,500 to $3,000 to whatever council decides. So there's 3 options on the floor that have been provided to us. So I open it up for discussion then for council. Councilor Rottens.
Thank you. So is this premature to make this decision until we hear back, or should we just do this right away? Because if we make this change and then we get the grant after all, do we undo this? Do we have to revisit it again, or how does that work?
I don't expect that we're going to get the grant this year. So we would have to reapply. We're going to continue talking we'll continue talking with the federal government. We did get an email from the federal government today saying that we would be able to have a meeting with the minister on the half funding, which is also the same minister for this funding. So we'd be able to discuss both. I doubt very much they will actually overturn it, but it will certainly open up the conversation for future. So at this point in time, don't expect to get any federal or provincial funding for this project until we have to reapply again. Mr. Barron?
Thank you. Through your worship, I guess, to your point, our Director of Public Works, Jamie Morgan, has been actually proactive since the last, since we've been declined, and is looking, and I don't want to speak for you, Jamie, but is looking to perhaps commission a feasibility study about the arena, double pad, what are the things we can do there? So I guess perhaps my suggestion from a staffing perspective is that once that report is complete, because we can add this, I believe, anytime that we want. Is that correct, Stefan? Like the increase?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, there's some flexibility there. I mean, I think that part of the reason for proceeding now with a bylaw update was that you just completed some master servicing plans, and they'd identified, particularly on the water and sewer side of things, significant growth related capital that and you needed to update your bylaw to reflect that. So that remains an issue. And as you said, if it is this council's intentions to carry on with this project, then that's really all you need to include the $5,000 in for the recreation development charge, recognizing that the scope of it and the funding of it may need to be ironed out at a later date. And as you say, there is always an opportunity to amend the bylaw, including the rates, to reflect any future grant funding that you receive.
So to that point, is it perhaps a good idea to wait for the feasibility study that Jamie is conducting, and then we can have an actual figures attached to? Because I'm sure it's that feasibility study is gonna add. Do we need a second pad? Do we add a gymnasium? Do we add like all those things? I don't know.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, another study different than the study we did and the project we're doing. Would the study include this, or would the study look at something different?
We could present options. So with a double pad and a gymnasium, with a gymnasium only, with a double pad only. And I know maybe Jamie, you can speak to it a little bit better than I can, obviously, but.
Yeah, to you, Mayor Davison. Yeah, so the feasibility study would be looking at twinning the ice that we have, plus our last master servicing plan was completed in 2021. I've reviewed it and I find a few gaps in it. So I was going to talk to them too about reopening that. We've had some different user groups over the last few years looking for space. Pickleball has become very big. So in some of those, and having some more community input on these, and maybe going back out there to update the plan that we did in 2021. It's 24, things have changed. We probably should add some stuff and update that plan, maybe just an amendment to it. So I've reached out to them to have a look at that. And part of that process would be looking at a feasibility study to twin the ice pad.
Twin the ice pad and this particular project?
Yeah, it would be all encompassing in one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, I think hearing all these different options and hearing about the feasibility study, that I would feel more comfortable waiting until we've got that in our hands, as long as it wouldn't impact the changes that we need to ensure happen for development charges. Just so that we really get a full scope picture of what we're looking at before we agree to not necessarily lock things in, but lock things into a bylaw.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Ottens?
Yes, on the other hand, if we pass it right away, then we can start collecting right away because the project's gonna happen regardless, right? Now, I guess, and this may have been answered, if we increase them at this point, is that based on the current project we have, or could we change that project completely and still be justified in charging collecting the development charges? Does it have to be specifically for this project on paper we already have?
Stefan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the legislation requires that whatever's in the background study be a reflection of council's intentions. So I don't believe you need a specific project with a specific scope and specific cost and feasibility studies to back it up. If it's this council's wish that to proceed with something in order to maintain service levels in the future, we can put a provision for community facility expansion into the background study and leave the details till later. I think that would be sufficient to justify the charge. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a good answer. Okay. So we have options, council. So Councilor Regis said, wait for feasibility study. Councilor Otten, you're saying go ahead with what we're doing now. Councilor Martin, Tamlin?
Yeah, I think just meeting in the middle, really. I think to take a look at the size of that increase based on the entirety of the project. I think there's components of this project in the feasibility study that would also be highlighted, be changed or whatever as well. And I think by breaking it up into different components, there might be other funding opportunities for specific aspects of the project, not necessarily funding for the project in its entirety as well. So I think kind of meeting in the middle there yes, go ahead with the development charges, because yes, we want to go ahead and do this work. What that work is fully look like, we're not sure. So I think to do both.
Well, we know that to your point, we know that the project that's currently on the table is $12 million. So if we're adding a rink to it, that just increases the amount of this project. I don't know what a new rink costs these days, Mr. Morgan, but another 12 maybe. So the feasibility study is going to be saying that, this is what we're going to need. We actually know that this project we had community discussions, we had community input in this, and we had an online community discussion on this project. The double rink did come up as well as a project in the future, and we know that with our ice time being stretched and community groups wanting more ice time, and Mr. Morgan talked about pickleball, and I know that's quite the sport that's going on right now, and we just don't have the space to add as many courts as we like to during the winter time. So to me, it's like, let's get on with this. We know we got these projects that need to be done. We don't want it to all be paid for by the taxpayers that are currently here. We want to make sure that new homeowners are also going to pay somewhat into what we already have, plus benefit the entire community. So I'm of the opinion of, let's get on with it. Let's move the needle up to the full amount, the extra 5,000 and so on dollars, on top of what we had before. I think it's the 29,000, if I remember correctly. It's for the house. Sorry,
Yes,
again,
Mr. Murray, it's-
$29,788. I think that's reasonable. In order to help pay for the facilities that will benefit the entire community, including the new people moving in. So my recommendation is that we go with the not change it, not cut it in half, but go with the entire project and with the development charges. So I need a motion on the floor to go in any direction, regardless of what we do. I need a motion on the floor. Councilor Otten, Councilor, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, last question being, obviously, if we pass these development charges, thinking about that plan at the 29,000, we're not saying to taxpayers at this point either that it's all gonna come through the taxpayers' pocket and the rest of the funding. We're saying we're still working on it, but we're allowing this new development growth to help pay for those projects.
Correct. So even though this project would be, $10 million short, those $10 million is still something that we could go to government, federal government, provincial government, fundraise. We have different community groups that will fundraise and to pick up that extra. But we want to make sure that the new residents are helping pay for the increasing of our facilities as well. Councilor Ottens?
Yeah, so I'll make the motion that we accept the option as presented to increase the development charges as recommended, and then also add the recommendation about keeping it sort of broader, the community improvement rather than this specific project, however it was worded. How did he word it? Oh, can you see me? However it was worded that it's not specific to the project on paper currently, but a general community
Right.
center improvement project.
Right, and that's, do we have to actually have that, Stefan, in the motion, or just that's just something that's legislated and as long as we have that project?
Mr. Mayor, it's legislated. I would recommend you include it in the motion, and I can give you some language right now if you like to.
We would like that, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Wheeler, I would suggest that the motions say that be it resolved that council express its intent to maintain parks and recreation service levels in light of anticipated future development, in part through the expansion and upgrade of recreation facilities.
Wow. Thank you. I think I have most of it too there, Mr. Clerk. So we have the entire resolution, and this is an amendment to the resolution. So we're gonna have the clerk actually read the initial resolution. And then Councilor Ottens will put the amendment to the resolution on the floor for a seconder. So we'll get the original one done first.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Council resolves that Township of Mapleton Council receive for information the delegation of Hemson Consulting Limited, Daniel Tovoli, consultant, and Stefan, associate partner, regarding Mapleton development charges, background study, draft alternative recreation rates.
And Councilor Ottens has put on an amendment to the motion, which is,
Be resolved that council expresses its intent to maintain parks and recreation service levels of anticipated future development, in part financed through in light of the expansion of recreation facilities.
sounds pretty darn close to what he said. So do I have a seconder to that amendment? Councilor Reed, thank you. Any more conversation on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment? That's carried. Any discussion on the entire package then? The move by Councilor Otten, second by Councilor Reed. And the clerk had read it all. Any more conversation? Then I'll ask all the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Stefan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Moving on to item number 8. Which we have the minutes of the Economic Development Committee. All right, any comments on that? The draft minutes? Not seeing any comments to that. We'll move on to item number 9. Item 9.1. Moved by Councilor Reed, second by Councilor Ottens. The Township of Mapleton Council received for information Billing Department Report BD 2024-05 dated March 19, 2024 regarding the February month end and year to date. Any discussion on that? Did you have anything to add, Mr. Tim? I knew you're just begging to get up there.
To you, Mayor Davidson and council. As you can see from our month-end report, permit numbers are up in comparison to the last couple of years. The permit values, though, they haven't been big ticket items, so our collected building permit fees are down a bit. Building is picking up. This month, we're receiving 5 to maybe 7 permits per week. So it is on the uptick. We also have some large industrial projects that are anticipated to bring those numbers up as well, especially the construction values. That sort of speaks to the report. Want to give you an update on the basement renovation. The electrical and the HVAC is completed now, so it should be within next week that drywall starts. And then hopefully we are back down to the basement in about a month. All right. Thank you.
Comments or questions? Seeing none. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Sorry, a little preoccupied trying to get power here. Moving on to item number 9.2.1, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Reed, that Township Mapleton Council received for information CAO's report 2024-03 regarding Mapleton fire rescue accomplishments. Mr. Barron.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Obviously, lots have happened through the last 9 or 10 months. And as we know, we're moving forward with the partnership starting or beginning April 1st. I thought it was important to highlight Chief Bigrig's several accomplishments in his short tenure with us. He's done a tremendous job, and he's so humble, in fact, that he's not even here to receive congratulations. But I thought it was important that we share what Chief Bigrig has accomplished in his short tenure, and I think it should be celebrated. And he took a great deal of time to try to address some of the points that were part of the master plan, and just sharing a good news story with everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Barron, and thank you, Mr. Bigrig, Chief Bigrig, for all that you've done for the community in the last number of months to take over at the interim fire chief and to take that master plan we had and start working on it and getting us to the point where it's much easier to hand off to the new team this work that he's already been pre-done. Any comments from council on this report? All right, all in favor? That's carried. Next item up is 9.22. This is moved by Councillor Reed, seconded by Councillor Ottens. A Township Mapleton Council received for information CAO's report 2024-04 regarding a flood damage assessment for Drayton and a GRCA completed cost benefit analysis of an extension to the Drayton Dike. And that Township Mapleton Council direct staff to investigate potential grant funding opportunities to assess the budget implications associated with executing the suggestions in this report. And just council, remember back, I think it's 2017, we had that large flood here in the community. 2019, Manny and I, we sat down with GRCA. We started talking about how can we stop this from happening again. And from 2019 to today, this is how long it's taken to get to this point. It's a lot of work that GRCA had to do, and it's a lot of back and forth between our staff and GRCA. So we're at this point now where we can look at this report. Ms. Barron, you want to add anything to this?
Through your worship, not really. I know the report did take a little bit longer than anticipated because there's a lot on the plate of the GRCA. There's some retirements and things. So, but thankfully they did get it completed. And I must admit I was a little bit shocked at the sticker price of extending the dike. But I mean, with our team, I'm sure we can find some funding to get it done.
Not only our team to find some funding, but maybe our Public Works team to actually do some of the work to bring the cost down. We'll see what we're allowed to do. Put that right onto you, Jamie. We have a crackpot crew here. We're good. Crackerjack crew? I don't know. Maybe what? Okay, let's go Crackerjack then. All right, comments from council then. Jamie, do not tell their crew I call it crackpots. Those are odds.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Can you explain this extension of the dike? Like when I look at this map, it looks like it's just cutting right across the fairgrounds and everything. I'm like, what is this gonna look like? And are we as a township paying for this or GRCA?
So, Mr. Barron, I'll turn this over to you. So we've had these discussions and DRC does the initial discussions and they do the initial reports, but when it comes to paying for the dike, that is on the township. If we want a dike extension, it's on us, and that's why in the report here, or in the resolution, it says that we look for ways to find funding opportunities to fund this. Because it's not on the GRCA, it's for protecting our community, so it's on us. And if you, in the report, it also talked about, you know, there's a couple roads that this dike transgresses over, and that would be something that would also have to be worked out for that. Mr. Barron, anything further to add? Nope, okay. Mr. Morgan probably has, and his Crackerjack team probably has some great ideas on how to get this dike across the roads, but we'll work that out later on. Further question? So, okay, so the dike the current walkway or the current Drayton path that we have going on the river, that's a dike. It's a raised area, and that's exactly what it'd be. Continued berm, a large berm that be continued around that whole space that you see there, all the way to Wood Street. So that's the diagram they have here to mitigate and keep the floodwaters into the fairgrounds and then crossing over the road. Right. Elman Wood, I think, are the two that are impacted. No, Elman, you're right, John, because yeah, it's protecting Wood Street, right? That's right, John Street, yeah. It'll take you out, so all the way, yeah, so it's gonna go all the way to John Street. My apologies on the looking at the map wrong. So we'll take you all the way over there. But I think the only road it would affect would be Elm Street, because it goes up the side of John Street, not across John Street. So they'd have to find a way to mitigate that. Maybe make the road a little hill over top, I don't know. Jamie, you have any ideas right off the top of your head? You're gonna shake his head, nope, I have no ideas right now, so we'll have to figure that out. Any further questions? All right. So the resolution has been read. It's going to allow staff to investigate grant opportunities and budget implications. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Jamie, can I give my love to your crew right now? It's okay.
To you, Mayor Davison, I'll pass that along.
Thank you. Item 9.2.3 is upgrading and modernizing the Mapleton's fence bylaw. This is moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Reed, that the Township Mapleton Council receive for information bylaw and property standards enforcement officer report BL 2024-01 regarding the implementation of an upgraded fence bylaw and to repeal the previous fence bylaw 2005-004. Rick? Your report? Come talk to us.
Yeah, so the reason that we're looking at this is because our current 2005 bylaw is only enforcing fences around pools, and there are certain things that are outdated on it and are no longer in compliance with the building code. The other reason we are looking at this was that with planning, we had concerns come in about certain fences that people were inquiring about certain heights that were exceeding what we would want in the township, and that we did not have any regulations to regulate any type of height for fences within the township. This current bylaw has been designed with keeping our residents in mind to make sure that prefabricated fences are accepted and that certain heights have been also designed to make sure that if you were to purchase a prefabricated fence, that it will fall within the parameters that we put down. We looked at what the most popular type of fences were that were put in and what size link is required on a chain link fence for pools and what is most commonly used. So we did spend quite a significant amount of time researching different bylaws in the area and to make sure that we kept everything within this area. And also to make sure that as a resident putting up a fence, that we make it as simple as possible for them to acquire and install these fences with illustrations as well.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council then on the fence bylaw, which apparently we didn't have much of one. But now we will. Go ahead, Councillor Tamlin.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor. It's Rick. So is this kind of retroactive in any way of the existing fences that are in place already? And also like, how is that currently enforced, or how will be enforced in the future? And then the example of the draft was taken from another township. I think it's Center Wellington, I think it was. And the fines within that were a huge difference than what we had. I think it was 5,000 for what we had for non-compliance, and I think theirs was at like 50,000 or something like that. Is that the draft that was presented what you would like to include? Thank you.
Rick?
Through you, Mayor. So the 50,000 that is mentioned in there is actually a provincial enforcement. That is not something that the township puts forward. That is something that the provincial court can give to somebody in case of a summons, and if they think that that is necessary. So we haven't looked at a fine schedule for anybody that breaks this bylaw. That is something that we still have to look into, and fine schedule also has to be sent to the Crown's office in Toronto for approval, and they also review to make sure that those fines are suitable for what we're looking to fine for. When it comes to other fences in our township, there's obviously a grandfather clause that comes along with introducing this bylaw. So certain fences in the area, unfortunately, there might not be too much we can do if they are currently not in compliance. Of course, with the exception of safety concerns or if there's building concerns that the building department may have to look at.
Thank you. Other questions? Good. Thank you, Rick. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Next item up is item 9.31. We're now in the Finance Department area. Moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Ottens, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive information Finance Report FIN 2024-08 dated March 19, 2024 regarding a health benefit plan for members of council. Mr. Morrison, any comments on this?
Through you, your worship, I have no further comments. I can answer any questions you may ask.
Thank you. So council remembers this, this report came as part of a notice of motion from Councillor Reid. I think it was January, a little bit of January 30th, I think it was. Councillor Reid, comments?
No questions in regards to the actual report, but I did have a thought through you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Would like to maybe add to this motion that we could discuss and deliberate the cost of this with our 2025 budget discussions in November.
All right, so Councillor Reid, you're asking for an amendment to the motion that I read earlier. And you're looking at adding and further that council discuss adding the health benefit plan during 2025 budget deliberations. Is that correct? Okay. Councillor Reid has added an amendment to the motion that's on the floor. I get a seconder for that. Councillor Ottens, thank you. Any discussion then on this amendment to add it to our budget discussions? Councillor Ottens?
So that would mean that we would just defer this till then, or we would accept it, we could accept it theoretically now, but it wouldn't be implemented till the next budget.
Well, this motion is saying that this information, we're receiving this for information. And that council during the budget discussions, discuss this again. That's what this motion would be put on the floor. Anything else? Okay, so the full motion then is that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information Finance Report FIN 2024-08 dated March 19, 2024 regarding the health benefit plan for members of council, and further that council discuss adding the health benefit plan during the 2025 budget deliberations. Okay, moved by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Ottens. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Move it on to 9.4.1. This is a long one, and the next one's a long one. And bear with me. This is resolution 9.4.1, moved by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that Township Mapleton support consent application B324 for lands municipally known as 18 South Mill Street, Glen Allen, with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That payment be made of the fee of $370 for a letter of clearance. That a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township. That a 2.5 meter road widening is provided along South Mill Street. That zoning compliance for a reduced lot area is obtained for the retained lands. And further, that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer of the planning and land division committee at the county of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Whew. Okay. Any discussion? Councillor Ottens.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So I assume this is to make a building lot behind these other houses. So would there be driveway access? I know it says expanding South Mill Street, but the way I read this map, it's the other direction. So would they have to add a driveway or something?
Linda?
Through you, Mayor. So in behind it is the Glen Allen subdivision that received draft approval not too long ago. So that road will be constructed and extended, and then there's going to be 11 lots back there. So they're just basically taking off the land that's not part of the subdivision, separating the ownership. Okay.
All right, further questions? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Move on to the next consent one, 9.4.2. Moved by Councillor Ottens, second by Councillor Tamlin, that the Council of the Township of Mapleton not support consent application B1024 as presented for lands described as Part Lot 2, Concession 4, with a municipal address of 6675 Wellington Road 11. And that should the Land Division Committee approve consent application B10/24, we would recommend the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That payment be made of a fee of $370 for a letter of clearance. That servicing can be accommodated on the severed and retained lands to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That driveway access to the retained and severed lands can be provided or upgraded to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township. That minimum distance separation can be met from the surrounding livestock facilities to the severed parcel. And further, that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer, the planning and land division committee at the county of Wellington, a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Questions? I'll call the question then. All in favor? What? Do you have any questions? Okay. So the resolution. Okay, so the resolution is that we not support this, okay? Okay. As of the first, but the council of township may not support consent application. I know I read a whole lot there, but that's the first line. Okay. Is there any other comments, questions before we move ahead? Then I'll call the question. All in favor of not supporting, as this resolution says, do not support it. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. I know that's a tricky one because you're not supporting, but your supporting is not supporting. It's a little tricky there. 9.4.3 moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information planning report PL 2024-03 Planning Department Comprehensive Fee Review, and that council consider passing a bylaw amending Schedule F of the fees and charge bylaw during the next open council meeting scheduled for April 9th, 2024. And further that the revised fees will take place on April 1st, 2024. Any comments, questions for this? We discussed this before, right? All right, all in favor? That's carried. Next item up is 9.4.4. This is moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Tamlin, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information planning report regarding draft plan of subdivision 23T 10005 red line revision, and that council support the red line revision to draft plan of subdivision dated February 13, 2024. And further, that council provide direction to the County of Wellington Planning Department that the red line revisions to draft plan of subdivision 23T-10005 be approved in accordance with the changes proposed to block 90 as presented, and further that staff amend the subdivision agreement as required to implement the proposed changes. Questions then from members of council? Councillor Tamlin, you had a question?
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Michelle or Linda. I just wanted clarification. So there's a proposed application revision is changing from a clustered townhouse block to a freehold townhouse development on street. Just wanted some clarification of what that means. Thank you.
So through you, Mayor, when this subdivision was draft approved, that was a draft approved as a block, a whole block. And what you can do on a block is you can develop a multiple residential type of development. So you have private roads or like a townhouse development. So it has sat there like that for a number of years. The owners would like to now market it as more of a freehold situation. So in order for you to have freehold townhouse units, they have to have access on a public road. So now they have to build a public road through there, and then each townhouse will have access to a frontage on a public road, which then means you can sell it individually. When it's a cluster development, you can't. It would have to be a condo development or rental. In this case, you can sell them individually. So essentially the use is going to be the same. Whether it's a cluster townhouse or a street townhouse, it's still the same use. It's how you can hold title now. So this is just setting it up so that later on down the road, we can put a municipal road in there and the lots can be individually sold through part lot control to potential future owners. It's just a paperwork thing, pretty much.
Thank you. That's good clarification. Any further questions on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And with council's indulgence, we're going to skip 9.5.1 right now. We're going to go to 9.5.2 because this is about Ontario Clean Water Agency, and we do have Don Irvine here with us. Don, you want to speak to the report at all? Or are you just here for answer questions? Okay, answer questions. So I have here resolution 9.5.2, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Tamlin, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive Public Works Report PW 2024-04 dated March 19, 2024, with respect to the Ontario Clean Water Agency 2023, and the 2023 summary reports, and that council acknowledge these reports satisfy legislative requirements. Questions then from council on this report? Councillor Tamlin, did you have a question on this one?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Okay, yeah, so on the report regarding the Drayton water system, there was a couple of non-compliance issues on there to do with the flow meter, and there was a 6-month period of non-reporting. I just wanted a bit more information of how, as far as the building department, or what kind of, how is that overseen, or you know, why was that missed? It doesn't seem like it was any risks to anybody, but I was just wondering what happened in that situation, please, first of all.
Don, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, over to Councillor Tamlin. Yeah, that was, it was unfortunate, but the current flow meter that we had in place actually had failed. Immediately, I had reached out to the vendor, who is a US company, and because of supply chain issues and trying to get it across the border, they ended up sending the wrong meter. So I then, once I got the meter in hand, I confirmed it was the wrong meter. And we were hoping that we could somehow integrate it into the current system, but because of the piping size, it just wasn't feasible. So I reached back out to the company, and then they wanted a restocking fee, plus the cost to send it back over, plus the duty, which would have been close to half of the cost of the original purchase. So then from there, I reached out to another vendor who's directly here in Ontario, and we received another up-to-date, a more current flow meter for the system. So we'll be integrating the new flow meters as we've got one other flow meter to upgrade in the coming year. So we'll budget for that one for sure, but supply chain demand and just back and forth emails to a US company, less than ideal during this post-COVID time for sure.
Thank you, Don. Good explanation for that. Further questions, Councillor Tamlin?
So, I mean, I guess that was also, I think the issue was also a communication issue as well, of updating what was happening, I think, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, through you, your worship. So originally, when I had reached out to the company, it was probably 3 or 4 weeks before I heard back from anybody, because it just goes to a generic site. I wasn't able to get a direct phone line linked to a sales rep for them. I did reach out to other managers. One of the great assets that we have with Aqua is we have a vast knowledge of different vendors and in different supply chain links that we can use, but nobody was familiar with this Macrome meter company from the States, and nobody else dealt with them. I did hear back from one other manager who back a few years ago kind of ran into a similar incident where they were shipped the wrong, it wasn't a flow meter, it was a different unit from the same company, and it was a nightmare to deal with them as well. So they ended up just using another vendor as well. So the non-compliance directly that the ministry identified, he tried to give us a little bit of grace on, because I showed him all the email correspondence back and forth. So he did try to give us a little bit of grace on that as well. But yeah, it's very, very difficult to get equipment post-COVID. So
this US company is not going to have many Ontario clients if he keeps this up.
Yes.
Other questions from council? Council Tamlin again.
Yeah, through you, Mayor again. There was a mention there, and I'm not sure of the, if it was a concern, there was a mention that there was no VFD installed on the well pumps. And I don't think it was a concern, but I just wonder why that was mentioned in the thing. I know there's when they are installed, as far as efficiency and energy use, that they're a recommended component. Just wondered if you could speak to that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, your worship. So we have, over the last few years, we've worked with the municipality on developing a plan for the upgrading, and one of the upgrading that's coming right now is with the Drayton Water upgrades for slated to be completed around this time next year, I think it is. So I've been involved in the meetings every other week via Teams meeting, I guess it is, that platform. So we are going to be switching the equipment over to more energy efficient. We've already taken steps with the new elevated composite water tower that's currently here in Drayton. We've changed over our programming to make sure that the well or the tower fills at night for that energy savings, and we're constantly looking for different ways to make sure that we are achieving the energy efficiency that the municipality needs. I've also engaged with Aqua's energy efficient or energy department, I'm not sure what they call them, down at corporate Toronto, but having them come on site for 2024 and doing a bit of a feasibility study with it, like an energy audit. And there are some grants out there that are available for some of the equipment upgrades as well, but just trying to work out the small details, as both Drayton and Moorfield are going to be going, water stations are going to be going through a significant upgrade here within the next 12 to 24 months. So just working with Jamie on those right now.
Thank you. Other questions? Council Tamlin, you got more? You sure? Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks.
Jamie, anything to add to that?
Through you, Mayor Davison. Yeah, I just want to thank Don for coming tonight to answer those questions, and yeah, we're aware of all those, and we are having meetings. And to Councillor Tamlin's comment about the VFDs, we are working on putting all VFDs in the Moorfield pump house too, making everything more efficient. So those are all been incorporated into our plans. And yeah, we meet every 2 weeks and go over, how we can save money and find efficiencies. So yeah, no, I just thank Don for coming tonight and appreciate all your work.
I appreciate it, Don. Thank you. And thank you, Jamie, for your comments there. And Martin, for all your questions. It's very informative. Thank you. I do have the motion here, and I did read that earlier. All in favor? That's carried. We'll go back to 9.5.1, which is a Pence drain. Moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township Mapleton Council received drainage report PW 2024-03 dated March 19, 2024 regarding a notice of request for drain major improvement. Pence drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, located at concession 14, part lot 2, former Maribel Township. And that the council of the Township Mapleton accept the request and prepare a notice to be sent to the owner requesting the drain improvements and the Grand River Conservation Authority. And further that R.J. Burnside and Associates Limited be appointed as engineer to prepare a report under section 78 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990. The appointment not to take effect until 30 days after notification to the GRCA as required by the provisions of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990. Mr. Morgan, anything to add to that?
To Mayor Davison, nothing to add. I could answer questions if council had any.
Thank you, council. Any questions at this point? No questions? All in favor? It's carried. Next up is item 9.6.1. Moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens. The Township Mapleton Council received Recreation Report 2024-02 dated March 19, 2024 regarding PMD Arena Live Barn. Can't wait to hear about that. And further, the council approves Mapleton staff to enter into an agreement with Live Barn Inc. Amy, talk to us about Live Barn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We met with Live Barn, who is a streaming service, earlier this year, and we were pretty excited to learn about what they have to offer. They bring to the table an opportunity for us to be able to live stream things that happen at the arena. So a hockey game, figure skating, really any event that's happening on the ice surface or the floor surface at the arena. People are able to purchase a subscription in the same way you would with any other streaming event that you have, any other platform, sorry. They bring all of the equipment required. They bring all of their equipment, they bring all of the internet and everything that is required to set it up so that we can then offer it within our facility. So there really is no risk to Mapleton to bring this service forward. They also share 20% of their subscription revenue back with the venue owners. They are the leaders in what is the live stream on-demand broadcasting for both youth and amateur sports happening right now. You can actually watch live on the go from your mobile, or you can watch on demand. It is up to you. You can also, depending on which level of subscription you want, you can even receive player analytics. So if you have a hockey player on the ice and you want to follow what they're doing, you can receive that if that is the level of subscription you purchase. Parents or families will have the opportunity to purchase subscriptions anywhere. They start around $20 and they go up to $35. So depending on how fully you would like to use the service and how much you would like to get out of it, you are able to decide from there. There are many locations across North America, including locations that our players do use the facilities at. So it wouldn't be that we'd be putting it here and you can't see them play at other facilities. There are facilities within our catchment area that kids play at that would have the ability to do this. So we're pretty excited about it. It's pretty neat. I have talked to both facilities that offer it. It's all been positive, as well as users, subscribers to Live Barn. It's been positive feedback. And like I said, Live Barn looks after the costs of putting it and maintaining it into our facility. And Mapleton Rec is pretty excited to see this go forward. So hopefully that is something you're interested in.
All right. Questions from council then? Councilor Reid.
I'm just wondering, from a user's perspective, like, let's say Drayton Manor Hockey or skating, do they have to have any kind of stipulation in their agreements with the parents that they're going to be recorded during an event?
So no, they don't. We actually already do stream things from our arena. You do have the ability, and we have all the signs that are posted saying that that is happening. Live Barn will also provide us with more signs to let them know that this is the streaming service that's happening within our facility. We do, however, have the ability, when they provide us with the computer, to block out certain times. So if it's a private rental, staff can just go in and block out that streaming time. Or if it's public skate and we don't necessarily need to stream public skate, we would have the ability to just obviously not stream during that time. But yeah, so it does come with lots of options.
Other questions? Councilor Ottens?
Yes, so the concept is that parents, grandparents would pay an annual fee to receive the streaming service, and the more that are sold, the more we benefit back, the more Mapleton benefits as well, right?
That's correct, yes.
So my question would be, so you pay for, let's say, your $35 service. Does that get you access to every arena? One fee? Not just the Drayton Arena?
Yes, you are correct, Mayor, that you have access to every arena that offers Live Barn streaming.
And what do we do with our current camera system?
So our current system is operated based on the user that is on the ice at the time. So this would definitely be an upgrade to that system. It would be more user-friendly. It would be something that we can set up to run automatically. Our current system requires somebody to go in, log in, typically, so if minor hockey is using it, they need to man it and have someone make that happen and facilitate it.
Thank you. Other questions then from members of council? Nothing else? Perfect. Thank you, Amy. So the motion is that Maple Lake Council approves staff to enter an agreement with Live Barn. All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to item 10.1. I'm going to turn that over to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The noise bylaw that's on here is a project of the clerks of the 7 municipalities and the clerk staff at the County of Wellington. It's been going on for over a year now. And the final objective is to have it passed by the municipal councils this month. Hopefully Minto will pass it tonight. Guelph Moss looked at it last night. The work has largely been done by Center Wellington and Guelph Aramasa. What's meant to be the final project has gone to the Ministry of the Attorney General to get them to approve our set fines. It's also been sent to the OPP with the hope that they'll enforce it for us, but as it turns out, the town of Erin has opted out. So it looks like it's going to be 6 municipalities in the county. And that's really what I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And the motion resolution we have here is that moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Tamman, that bylaw number 6001-24 being a bylaw to regulate, prohibit, and otherwise control noise in the township of Mapleton and to repeal bylaw 5001-05 be hereby read a first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the corporate seal. Questions to the clerk on this bylaw? Councillor Reid.
Through your mayor, in regards to events that we've hosted, let's say, for example, at the fair where we issue normally a permit to extend their time to be noisy, that will fall under this new bylaw as well.
It will. Any event we want to approve outside of this won't be a problem. There's no statutory part of it where you have to actually enforce the bylaw. That was actually the point we struggled with Erin. They have 3 events they're worried about. It's not rational, but that's the way it is. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to correspondence for council's direction. We do have the letter there from the Moorfield District Horticultural Society. And the resolution here is moved by Councillor Tamblin, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township Maple Lake Council receive for information a letter of explanation and request from Moorfield District Horticultural Society dated March 4th, 2024 regarding their request to continue to utilize the Township Mapleton facilities for holding 8 annual meetings at no cost. So they can continue to provide volunteer contributions to the Township Mapleton. Any questions and comments on this? All in favor? It's carried. Correspondence, we're at item number 12. So we have a number of items that corresponds for council's information. Anything from council on this? I do have one myself, item 12.8, which is the Wellington County Planning Committee recommendations. Question for our manager of planning. We got Bill 119, Bill 165, we have Bill 150. They've all impacted us here at the township and every community. Can you give us some indication of what has the impact been to Mapleton, whether it be the planning staff, whether it be cost? Can you give us some indication, please?
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. So impact of much confusion, definitely much time and money spent on, you can go as far back as starting with our growth management strategy that we did and council worked on over a couple of sessions and approved. But thankfully, because we were proactive enough, it has worked in our favor, although we have not actually seen it come to fruition yet. But if you are looking at the package that of correspondence from the county, you will see in the second report the urban boundary expansion requests, and it matches now, whereas when we first did it, we had a phase 1 and a phase 2. And if you look at the mapping that's in there now, it includes all of it. No more phasing, just all at once. Now, having said that, those maps are not in 119 or 120. They actually will not go forward to the province until 123. Having said all of that, back in May of 2022 is when the county originally approved the first official plan amendment 119. So then in April of 2023, so almost a full year went by, and Sarah Willem came to do a presentation. That's when the province approved. But when they approved it, they also approved it with urban boundary expansions that also included, parcels of the green belt were in there, things that were approved without community consultation, unlike ourselves where we did a full consultation before submitting our proposal. So then after that, that's when, so the communication you have in your package tonight is around Bill 150. So that was December 6th of 2023 that the government then decided to reverse the modifications of OPA 119 through this bill, with the exception of anything that had for Indigenous consultation and the Greenbelt related matters. So since that report was written and put into your agenda package on February 20th of 2024, the province introduced the Get It Done Act. And that that commenting period closes on Wednesday for March 21st. So there was an approval, modification, a complete reversal, as if it went back, as if it was never approved. And then we had the opportunity to comment. Again, we've actually penned 3 letters going forward for all of these different, as well as there's been meetings, there's been delegations, conversations with our local MP and MPPs. I'm not certain, perhaps Mayor Davidson has had a conversation with Mr. Ford himself. So at the end of the day, for Mapleton, a lot of work has gone into it and a lot of time and energy, but everything is now actually staying exactly the same. Nothing changes for Mapleton. But back in 2022, when I originally approached our member from the province, who was our representative, they were already very pleased with all the work that we've done and said, we were going to write you, Tyler would be writing us a letter of support, because we were expecting back then that OPA 120 was going to go forward. And because the province had said that the new, it's no longer a maximum for the boundary expansion, it's a minimum. And so, and the fact that we'd already gone through the process, there didn't seem to be a problem and it was going to be supported. But unfortunately, we've gone through 3 revisions of the original official plan amendment, which will hopefully end now as of Wednesday, and hopefully we will be moving forward. But since that time, because of the complete reversal, OPA 119 went back up, and yet again, a second letter. Well, there was the one that we brought to council from Mayor Davidson that everyone agreed upon. And then a different variation of that exact same letter went forward. And again, confirmation came back that it would be supported come 119 when it gets posted. But when 119 is gonna, 120 is going to be posted? We don't know. But hopefully, since originally it was from 2022, and there's only been slight modification, and that which did not take a public consultation is no longer included. We still believe we are in good standing, and again, the conversations with the province and through our local representation has not ended. But at the end of the day, nothing for Mapleton has changed. But we've also not received any negative feedback. We've been led astray a little bit. We thought there was going to be a 119.2. That didn't come to be. Instead, we have a version 3 of the exact same thing. So I know it has been quite a roller coaster, and all the things that you don't see in the background. And in the meantime, with the hurry up and wait has really been the theme for everything, and not to mention other applications for funding that we were hoping would coincide with the growth management strategy, which technically I believe was supposed to be all wrapped up and completed 2 years ago, really. And we're still just getting through the original one being approved. So either way, we've also got confirmation from the county has been incredibly supportive. And at the end, if for whatever reason it all goes out the window, which we have no reason to believe that it will, then the county is prepared to put forward an official plan amendment of our own to ensure that the expansion goes through, but the timing, we just don't know.
Thank you for that incredible update. And Mr. Barron, I just want to say on behalf of council, I really appreciate the time that staff has been put in. With all the changes that the province keeps making, we have an incredible staff that's done some incredible work behind the scenes that people don't see. But it certainly has, it's been what, 3 years since we approved the boundary expansion that we were going to do, and here we are today, still talking about that boundary expansion because of the province in and out of their different regulations and bills that we're in, we're out. We got a foot in, we got a foot out, and we're all in here in Mapleton. We just have to get the province on board to accept us. So we'll continue having those conversations, and Michelle's going to thank you for, and Linda, for all the work that gets done and all the planning and all the work and all the changes and all the headaches. It's a lot. And I just want to say on behalf of council, I really appreciate everything that's gone into this. And the public needs to know that this is not, we don't sit on our thumbs here. We're actually working all the time in the office. Anything else from council that want to discuss on these pieces? You'll see in there the OPP year-end report as well. This is something that normally goes to the Police Services Board. The Police Services Board sees that, County Council sees it. I'm glad we're seeing it here on our agenda as well. You can see that we had a black cat. Does everybody know what the black cat is? Okay. No? Okay, so the black cat, what the OPP have and the county has is a black cat. And you'll see on page 243 of our agenda, page 7, and even the previous page, they talk about the black cat speed monitoring devices. So we can ask, and I have asked, you'll see Mapleton on there a couple times, that we can ask for the areas to be monitored. So they have a box, it's called the black cat, it's a black box that they'll attach to a pole. And then for about 7, 8, 10 days, they will have that. It will monitor traffic going both directions, the speed, the type of vehicle, all kinds of data can be brought in by that black cat. And so you see in the report, they'll say if you look at where's the Mapleton one? Mapleton concession 3 Mapleton, which was on page 7 or 243 of our report. It says it was there for 14 days, 13,962 vehicles went through. It's saying no meaning that no extra enforcement is required because it didn't meet the threshold, the percentile of what they're talking about. So you look at that number there, the posted speed limit is, the 85 percentile is, and the collision history for the area. So when you get the enhanced enforcement would mean they would send out the traffic team to go and enforce that particular area. But they're looking at that saying, yeah, we had complaints. Those complaints were forwarded to OPP. They put the black cat out there. but they did not see with all those vehicles that had gone through. And if you look at the very first one on there, which is Center Wellington Township Road 19, 7 days, 32,000 vehicles, and it's got a no. Because although people will perceive they're speeding, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is speeding. And there is that threshold. If you look at that very first one, it's supposed to be that it's 50, 85 percentile. That means 85% of people doing 58 around that area. So I did not receive it. So that Black Cat, if we have any areas that we're getting complaints on, please send them to me. I will ask the OPP to put up the Black Cat. And we've recently had it in Goldstone, and we've had it on County Road 11 near Scenic Drive, and it's been on Main Street in Drayton as well. We had it in Alma, County Road 17. It's been on County Road 17 in Alma as well. Definitely, did I mention Rossay already? It's been through Rossay. And then Rossay needed extra enforcement. So then you saw the OPP out there doing their enforcement. So if we have any locations, please just send them to me and put that out to the citizens as well. Send me an email. And we'll look at getting that deployed out in Mapleton. On this, if you look at this whole Black Cat monitoring for 2023, I think Mapleton's mentioned twice. So we need to utilize that service more often. Anything further? All right. Moving on to item number 13, any notices of motion? 15, item other business. Anything to bring up? Okay. We don't have a closed session, so we'll move on to item number 17, with the confirmatory bylaw. Resolution 17.1, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Tamlin, that bylaw number 2024-15, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Mapleton, be hereby read a first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the corporate seal. All in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned. Mr. Clerk. 8:37.